The church was silent except for the soft echoes of distant footsteps and the faint rustling of flowers placed gently around the small white coffin. But the detail that stole every breath in the room was the sight of a large German Shepherd police dog, Max, lying completely still beside the coffin, his head resting near the tiny engraved name of the little girl he refused to leave. His eyes were open, filled with something deeper than grief, something heavy and unspoken. Officers who had worked with Max for years had never seen a dog mourn like this. They whispered among themselves, unsure if he even understood what death truly meant, but something about his posture, rigid yet trembling, made it painfully clear. Max knew that the little girl was gone, and he wasn't ready to let her go. If you believe that kindness, loyalty, and second chances still exist in this world, please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Heartwarming Kindness. It truly helps us continue bringing stories that touch the heart. Max's loyalty had always been one of the strongest qualities of the police K9 unit, but this, lying beside a child's coffin for hours without moving, was beyond anything his handlers ever expected. Officers walked over to coax him away, offering gentle words and even his favorite treats, but Max didn't blink. He didn't turn. He didn't acknowledge anyone. He simply stayed there, breathing slowly, protectively, as if guarding the girl even in death. Her name was Emily, a 7-year-old with golden, brown curls and bright hazel eyes. Despite her young age, she had already faced more hardships than most adults. Emily had been a quiet, sensitive child, spending most of her time reading picture books or sitting outside her home sketching animals. But her favorite thing in the world was police dogs. Every time she saw Max on patrol with Officer Daniel, she would run to the gate and wave with a smile so bright that Max would pull Daniel toward her just for a chance to say hello. Emily and Max developed a bond so unique that even Daniel, Max's handler, could not fully explain it. Max was trained to be serious, focused, and obedient, but around Emily, he softened. He allowed her to hug him tightly. He let her play with his ears. He even lay on his back to let her scratch his bell, something he never did with anyone else. Daniel and Emily's mother would laugh, wondering how a tough police dog could turn into a gentle, protective giant in front of a child. Everything changed one cold evening when the police department received a call about a suspicious van lurking near the park where Emily often played. Max and Daniel were dispatched immediately. They didn't know at the time that Emily was already in danger. Witnesses later reported seeing her near the swings, drawing quietly in her sketchbook when a man approached her. The rest of the details were devastating: the desperate struggle, Emily's frightened cry, and the tragic moment when she was fatally injured while trying to escape. Max arrived minutes too late. His frantic sniffing and urgent barking were full of panic, and when he found her motionless, something inside him broke. In the days leading up to her funeral, Max refused to leave her drawings, her little pink backpack, and the stuffed toy dog she always carried. He lay with them in silence, pressing his nose against them, as if hoping her scent would somehow bring her back. Officers tried to distract him with work, but he wouldn't take commands. They tried to comfort him, but he walked away. Max was grieving, deeply, painfully, unmistakably. At the funeral service, when the coffin was placed in the center of the church, Max pulled so hard on his leash that Daniel almost stumbled. But instead of running wildly, Max approached the coffin slowly with a sense of understanding and reverence. He climbed onto the wooden platform and lay beside it, placing his head gently against the cool white surface. From that moment on, he refused to move. Hours passed. Visitors came and went, leaving flowers and notes, wiping tears as they quietly exited. But Max stayed. His chest rose and fell slowly. His eyes remained fixed. There was no force in the world strong enough to pull him away. Daniel had known Max for 7 years and trusted him more than anyone. But this wasn't just loyalty. It was grief shaped into silent devotion. Watching Max like this cracked something open inside Daniel. He finally knelt down beside him, brushing a hand over Max's fur, whispering softly. He didn't expect Max to respond. He hadn't responded to anyone else. But suddenly Max lifted his head, sniffed toward the coffin again, and let out a soft, trembling whine Daniel had never heard before. At first, people thought Max was simply mourning the child he adored. But what the officers discovered next changed everything. During the investigation, evidence suggested that the criminal who harmed Emily had not been working alone. The case team had been trying to piece together the missing links. Frustrated by the lack of leads, Daniel decided to bring Max into the investigation room one last time, hoping maybe revisiting the evidence would help Max snap out of his grief, even if just a little. When Max entered the room, his behavior was strange. He sniffed around slowly, then suddenly stopped, frozen, near a storage bin filled with Emily's personal items collected from the crime scene. He began to sniff rapidly, pacing back and forth, then barking sharply at the bin. Daniel and the officers exchanged puzzled looks but quickly opened it. Out came Emily's sketchbook, the one she had been holding at the park. Max pushed his nose into the pages and began whining again, pawing insistently at one specific drawing. Emily had sketched something that looked like a police officer standing with a dog, but beside them, near a tree, was a rough outline of a man with a distinctive tattoo on his wrist. Emily had noticed him and sketched him without thinking he was dangerous. The officers widened their eyes. The tattoo matched a known criminal connected to multiple child abduction attempts. Emily had unknowingly drawn her own attacker and his accomplice. This discovery reignited the investigation. Police tracked down the suspect using Emily's sketch as a key piece of evidence. Within days, they captured the second man involved in the crime, the one they had been desperately searching for. Justice that seemed impossible was now within reach. All because of a little girl's drawing and a dog who refused to give up on her. Max's grief had led the officers to the truth. When Daniel returned to the church to share the news with Emily's mother, Max followed him willingly. For the first time since the tragedy, Max's posture seemed lighter, not happy, but relieved, as though he understood that Emily's courage had not been lost in silence. The funeral resumed with a second wave of visitors. Emily's mother approached Max, knelt before him, and wrapped her arms around his neck. Max closed his eyes softly, leaning into her embrace. They shared a grief too heavy for words, a bond shaped by the little girl they both loved. Near the end of the ceremony, the pastor invited anyone to speak who wished to honor Emily. Daniel stood up, holding Max's leash, and shared the truth, that Emily had unknowingly helped solve her own case, that her bravery lived on, and that Max had stayed by her side not just out of love, but because he knew her story wasn't finished yet. As the final moments of the service approached, Max slowly stood up for the first time since entering the church. He stepped toward the coffin, touched it gently with his nose, and then walked back to Daniel. It was as if he had given Emily his final goodbye, one that carried every bit of love, loyalty, and protection he could offer. If this story touched your heart in any way, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Heartwarming Kindness. Your support helps keep these emotional, inspiring stories alive. Before the story ends, please comment below. Max's loyalty will never be forgotten. Emily was laid to rest beneath a large oak tree, the same spot she loved to sit under while sketching. Max visited her grave often, lying beside it quietly, breathing calmly as the wind rustled the leaves above. Time passed, and although the pain never fully disappeared, Max found purpose again. He returned to work, stronger and more determined, as if carrying Emily's courage within him. Officers would often see him pause during patrols, glance up at the sky, and wag his tail softly, like he was greeting a little girl who once called him her hero. And in the hearts of everyone who witnessed the bond between Emily and Max, one truth lived on forever. Some loyalties don't end with goodbye. They continue, shaping lives, delivering justice, and reminding the world that love, even in loss, is powerful beyond measure.